Hello and welcome to the CSN3M Mindset Monday podcast. I'm Andrew Wade with Case Specific Nutrition. On this channel, we focus on the 3 M's: mindsets, myth busting, and mentoring, all as they pertain to health and nutrition. In today's episode, we are going to be discussing a very, very important topic, and that is the right to vote. And yes, you heard me correctly, the right to vote. This is election week after all, and I thought it was an important topic that we could discuss in the realm of nutrition and wellness and physical well-being, because the concept of voting is not unique to just political atmosphere, but also has a lot of value in our personal and physical well-being. So just to step back for a moment, I want to sort of pave the analogy for us. And the thought I want to provide is, if we think back to why we built the original voting system that we have in play hundreds of years ago. The concept behind having the Senate and also the presidential space and the House of Representatives, so that executive branch along with the House and Senate, was really to make sure that all the voices were heard, right? The concept of having two parties even initially was because there were people that lived in different parts of the United States and as a result had different life experiences, and because of those life experiences have different values and priorities, and all of them deserve to be heard. And the collective that is the House and Senate was supposed to be the whisper down the lane that led to all the voices being appropriately represented, which is why in a Senate and a House you have extremely liberal and democratic people, and you have extremely conservative and extremely far-right people. And then you have kind of everything in between. And the hope is that that is supposed to do a good job of representing the masses. Now, we could have an hour or even a day-long debate about how well that's going now, but for now, I just want to stop for a moment and break that down as why it originally existed. That was the founding fathers' intention, right? Was we want to collect all of the views and experiences and let it trickle up into singular decisions that allow us to hear the voices of all sides and then hopefully come to a middle ground that helps most people. And when it comes to our body, there is also sort of multiple audiences that we need to hear from. And if we don't hear from one side or the other, we end up getting really, really pulled to the far right or the far left. And so what I like to discuss is the vision of letting your brain and your body vote for what you're eating. And so let's think about this for a moment. What does your brain vote for? Well, your brain is kind of the emotional center, if you will. It's where all of our, emotions and all the chemical reactions that cause them are, and it's where a lot of our, the word craving stems from. And so when we feel joy or when we feel sadness or when we feel anger, those varying emotional spectrums will oftentimes translate to food. And particularly in the United States, where food is a very, very cultural phenomenon that we put in all events, from weddings and birthday parties, to funerals and, in the form of stress or emotional eating after breakups or other hardship is experienced. So the brain votes, and most often the brain votes based on its emotional status. And that's not a bad thing. To be perfectly honest, we need that because it's a good thing to enjoy food. Life is meant to be a positive experience, and we are very fortunate in this country that most of us have access to food, which means we have access to flavor and variety, and that's something that can be enjoyable, right? It's something like taking a lunch and actually enjoying what you eat for lunch is going to help break up the stress of a workday and help calm you down, which makes you less burned out at the end of the workday, which means you're more likely to have, an evening that is more relaxed and rested and positive. Enjoying a good dinner with family is another good example of an emotionally positive event. And so food is meant to be emotional, and it's a good thing to look forward to eating. It's a good thing to enjoy what we're eating. But what ends up happening is if that's the only vote we hear, if that's the only voice we hear, then we only make selections based on flavor and emotion, right? So that's where we could see ourselves just constantly eating the saltiest and the sweetest and the most intensely flavorful foods. And the problem with that is if we do only those types of foods, chances are our energy levels, our digestion, our body is not going to be as well supported, right? We're not going to be in as good of a place as we'd like to be. We're going to enjoy what we're eating, which is great, but there's going to be potentially some consequences because not all of the voices of your body and well-being were heard. And so, in addition to hearing from the brain, we need to also hear from the body. The body deserves a chance to vote as well. And just like with the brain, there are some people that only let the body vote. And when only the body votes, that can also be a negative thing. When we hyper focus on, oh, my abdomen feels a little bit fuller after I eat. And, in the eating disorder community in particular, a lot of people struggle because they focus on, that they feel their thighs are bigger, their stomach is bigger. They kind of, obsess about a specific body part. And the reality is, even when just the basic concept of eating, our intestine is a long, narrow hose in our abdomen. And when you eat food, that hose fills up, which pushes out on the abdomen, which means everybody's abdomen is going to expand slightly after eating. And being overly concerned with the body can cause us to be extremely hypervigilant and almost too reactive, where we start to look for problems or look for responses. And so we can get a little bit too hypervigilant, a little bit too in tune, and as a result, our mental health can suffer. So there it is. We can already hear that dichotomy. If only the brain gets to vote, the body often will suffer. And if only the body gets to vote, oftentimes the brain will suffer. So what is our solution? Well, our solution is to let both sides vote, let both voices be heard so that we can find our happy middle ground. We should be able to sit down at a meal and ask the simple question, what sounds good? And let the brain vote. And it's going to pick something that the tongue is excited to eat and the teeth are excited to chomp up and the stomach's excited to receive. And the hormones in the brain are excited to respond to. And then on the other side, we can let the body vote, which is what are the muscles excited to receive? What is our digestive tract going to benefit from? How are we going to feel? What are our energy levels going to be? What is the purpose of this meal, right? Am I going to eat this meal and then am I going to go exercise? Because if so, I probably don't want to eat something that's going to make me want to take a nap. Am I going to eat this meal and then need to go right back to work? Once again, I probably need to eat something that's energizing, gives me good mental clarity, maybe gives me a good break in my day, but also lets me get back into my routine and use the energy as the gas in the gas tank to have a great rest of the day. And so we want to make sure the body gets to vote. And if the body gets to vote and the brain gets to vote, what we end up with is a meal that is delicious and nutritious, right? So it tastes really good and it also fuels us very, very well. And so it's going to have a couple key components. It's going to satisfy our hunger. It's going to give us a good break in the day. It's going to serve as a good mental outlet, a good enjoyment, a good pause. It's going to make our brain feel happy. And then it's also going to digest well. Again, it's going to feel good going in. Our body's not going to struggle to digest it and feel overwhelmed or exhausted by it. And then from there, it's also going to provide us with energy. And energy is a mental and physical combo. We can already hear where mental energy and physical energy both come from food, and ideally it comes from a balance of food. And so we don't want the food to be extremely bland and boring, because while chicken, rice, and broccoli as the famous quote unquote clean eats example that the world tends to refer to, it may give us energy in the form of carbohydrate, which is good physical energy, and it may give us good digestion, and it may give us good nutrients. But if we don't actually enjoy the meal, we're probably going to be looking for something salty or sweet or flavorful in the form of a snack later in the day. And so if we work to enjoy that meal, make it a little bit more flavorful, add some spices, add some oils or some avocado or some other nutrients that make it really tasty, or some ingredients that make it really tasty, it sets you up to have the combo where you have a good quality meal that does all the things for your body and then also does a lot of good things for your brain. And that right there is what I will call the life hack of health. I think more often I see people trying to choose between the two, which is, oh, I either get to enjoy my food or I get to feel like I'm eating well. And if you're trapped between deciding that you need to pick between two kind of semi useful options, then you're not doing it right. There's more to learn. And just because you haven't learned it yet isn't a bad thing. That's an exciting thing. It means there's an opportunity to grow and improve. Those who truly have health are not those that eat boring, bland, repetitive food every day, all day, no matter what. Those who have mental health and physical health are the ones who have health. And so those who are able to eat and enjoy food that is also nourishing for them, those are the ones that have the physical health and the sustainable health, because they're not going to go back and forth between deciding whether they're going to eat a easy to digest meal versus eating something that's extremely flavorful like a Big Mac lasagna. Hope I didn't give anybody ideas out there, but the point is to try and find the middle ground, the middle of the two, which is what are the meals that you actually walk away from feeling physically and mentally, basically satisfied by. And I challenge each of you this week to take a look at some of the go-to recipes you guys make at home and look at the ones that you really enjoy, right? Take a look at the ones that you like the taste of, the family seems to like, they taste good, they're easy to make, or they're easy enough to make. And then identify those. How do they make you feel physically? Make sure that the brain and the body both get a vote. And when you're about to eat a meal, just take a moment and ask yourself, what does my brain want? What does my body want? And if we can listen to those, if we can slow life down just enough to hear those two things, give them both a genuine vote, what we're going to end up hearing is the right answer that's going to support you in a positive way. And more importantly, it's going to become more natural, where what will happen is when you eat a meal that leaves you feeling lethargic and overfed and swollen and bloated, instead of feeling guilty about it, it'll be a kind reminder that you didn't let your body vote. And when you eat a meal that was super boring and you ate it, you felt full, but then 2 hours later you were looking for something sweet because you needed, quote unquote, some flavor, or you had a craving, that is also a kind reminder that you didn't let your brain vote. And so use these gestures or these nudges as a reminder that both sides deserve a vote, and use this election week as a good way to practice for yourself to let all of you vote so that you can come to a good answer that supports you and allows all things going forward to be positive. I hope this has been a helpful mindset for you on this week. Thank you again for listening. I'd love it if you would please subscribe to our channel, CSN3M, if you have not already. And don't forget to share this episode with a social media hashtag spread the health to a friend or loved one or someone else that you think would benefit from this life balance observation. And as always, you can follow us on social media at Case Specific Nutrition. Check out our website, casespecificnutrition.com. We will be back next Monday with another CSN3M Mindset Monday. And next week will be the last episode of season 1. It will be episode 52. And then we will be taking a break throughout the holidays, just posting some of our favorites. And we will return in January with the start of season 2 with some new big and exciting things to discuss, myth bust, mentor, and offer mindsets about. Be well.